So episode 146 belongs to a lady named Marie Crosiet. And she is a viewer request. When I looked in my files, my friend's husband, this is also one of his great grandmothers. So let's get to explore Marie and what she brought to New France. So Marie was born in 1651 in a commune called Marennes in France. Her parents were Pierre Crozet and Marie Brouard. Marennes is found in the Nouvelle-Aquitaine region of France. So you can see on the top left where it is in relationship to France, if you will, or inside of France. And then inside that region, it is the département. Remember, département is like a county. In the county or département of Charente-Maritime. Now, Maritime will tell you right away that it has some relationship to the sea. And so Marennes, of course, as you can see in the picture here, it borders the sea. It was at one time one of the most prosperous cities of the region due to its location in the middle of the saltwater marshes, at a time when salt was a valuable commodity. Marennes is also a center for oyster farming. It has now merged with Hyères Brouage to form one commune as of 2019 and is now known as Marennes Hyères Brouage. So they kind of keep reinventing yourself. This is what makes France so interesting because they never stay still. The church where Marie was baptized is the Église Saint-Pierre, which was founded in 1047 and rebuilt in the 14th and 15th centuries. And this is essentially the style that we see today. So all we know about Marie is that she was aboard Le Prince Maurice and she arrived in Quebec City July 30th, 1671. We do not know the whereabouts of her parents or their status, and we have no dowry that we know of. But she was in New France as of July 30th, getting off that boat. The room that she selected and who selected her, his name was Jean Lagarde de Raconte. And he was born in Chavagne-les-Redoux, which is found in the Pays le Loire, the Loire region. And you can see it circled on the upper left. And then on the upper right, you can see Vendée. It's in the department of the Vendée. So it's actually kind of very close to the region where Marie was from. So that's kind of an interesting thing. So they were both kind of along the sea, if you will. And right now there is about 834 people, according to Wikipedia, that live there. So it's a very small community. Just to mention his parents were Jean Lecaire and Marguerite Dubois. And l'église Notre-Dame de l'Assomption is where Jean would have been baptized. And then, of course, I put a picture of an aerial view of the town where, it's very small. But definitely something very picturesque as I comb through the pictures. So how did Jean get to New France? Well, he arrived, as so many did before him, in September of 1665 as a carinier soldier with the Lanoret Company. Okay, so that, and then afterwards he would have stayed in New France, waiting for his chance to establish a life. And on August 29, 1671, Jean and Marie were married in a town called La Parade, which we'll get to know a little bit better. We do not have a marriage record for them, but we know, according to the notary contracts, that indeed this is where it took place. So the family settled in a place called La Parade, or Sainte-Anne de la Parade. And it is a town located near the mouth of the Sainte-Anne River, along the King's Road, the Chemin du Roi, Route 138, that stretches from Montreal to Quebec City. It's the world capital of Tommy cod fishing. So during Tommy cod season, generally from late December to mid-February, thousands of tourists come to Sainte Anne for ice fishing. And a small fishing village is built on the frozen water of the Sainte Anne River. The centerpiece of the town is the Sainte-Anne de la Parade Church, a Catholic church near the banks of the Sainte-Anne, so you can see it on the upper left. And it's actually modeled after the Notre-Dame Basilica in Montreal. The story of Sainte-Anne de la Parade begins in 1603 when Samuel Champlain, on one of his voyages, names the river Sainte Marie. It would then be called this until the late 1660s, when it was changed to Ile de Sainte-Anne. The first seigneur was a man named Michel Gagne, who was awarded the land from Jean Talon, the intendant. This was around 1667. By November of 1668, he recruits a prominent tenant, our very own Michel Roy de Châtellerault, and his wife, Châtellerault, and his wife Françoise Aubé, and we featured them in one of the early episodes. I think it was episode 7. To be the first true occupant of the land, this was Michel, a true pioneer, and that he would eventually, Michel Gamelin, the seigneur, would sell his shares to two men who would then share the seigneury for a time, and then eventually Pierre Thomas Thériault de la Parade, the son of one of these men, and hence Sainte Anne, became Sainte Anne de la Parade. Here's an interesting note. Pierre Thomas happened to be married to a Quebec heroine named Madeleine de Verchères, who at 14 years of age had defended her family and village from the Iroquois raid. And she became the seigneuress of this place and actually ended her days here. I've actually put a picture right here, is the seigneurial manor, and you can visit it, so it's really quite remarkable. This map is just phenomenal because when I saw it, I really blew it up. That's the land where Marie and Jean would have settled in. So that he's there. He's actually there, and that's the land where he is. So you can have a look at that. Truly an amazing story in terms of establishing and being one of the first pioneers. So the family begins. They have a son named Pierre, who would eventually marry Marianne Picard and have 9 children, 4 of whom would make it to adulthood. So unfortunately, sometime between 1672 and 1678, no record has been found, Jean would pass away. The new groom would be, his name was Pierre Levesque, and he was born in 1641 in Douai-la-Fontaine. It's now called Douai-en-Anjou. His parents were Gilles Levesque and Mathurine Thibault. Now you can see on the map, he actually comes from the same region of France that Jacques came from, Pays de la Loire, he doesn't come from the same département. Remember, Jacques came from Vendée. Pierre comes from Maine-et-Loire, and Maine-et-Loire is actually named after 2 rivers, Maine, the river Maine, and the river Loire. And Douai-la-Fontaine is a former commune, which was then merged in 2016. Remember how I told you they keep reinventing themselves? Into a new commune called Douai-en-Anjou. The church where Pierre might have been baptized is Saint Pierre from the 15th century, so you can see it on the bottom left. And Douai-la-Fontaine is known as the rose capital of France. A festival of the rose is held here in July of each year. Can't you imagine what that must be like and smell like? That must be amazing. Where in one park alone, there are more than 800 varieties of roses that can be seen. I just think that's remarkable. So Pierre and Marie were married August 10th, 1677. So she begins a new family. So the family grows. We have Pierre, and second Pierre is born, and he would marry later in life to a lady named Marie-Jeanne Tessier, and he would adopt her children, but did not have any of his own. Madeleine did not marry. We don't know if she became a sister or just simply was, a maiden aunt sort of thing. Edmond would marry Marianne Aymon and have 9 children, 6 of whom made it to adulthood. And Mathurin married Marie-Madeleine Aymon, her sister, and would have 4 children, 2 of whom would make it to adulthood. And then we have the fabulous 1681 census, which I love seeing. Pierre Levesque is 40. Marie Croiset, sa femme, his wife, 30. Their children, Jean. Now remember, the first Jean was actually Pierre. So it's very, very possible that his name was Jean-Pierre, just to differentiate, because they're not going to put Pierre and Pierre. They sometimes do. But in this example, Jean is really Pierre, the first Pierre, 9 years old, and then we have the second Pierre, who's 3. And then we have Madeline, who's 8 months, and the other 2 children are not featured. And then we have 5 Betacons, so they have 5 goats, and they have 12 Arpents à Valeur. So it's very, very highly possible that Marie came into the marriage with some land, and so did Pierre. So because they're both in La Parade. So more research for this would definitely be useful. So Pierre would pass away before 1701. We do not have a death record for him. They would have been married for almost 24 years when he passed away. So she had a longer, journey with the second husband. Marie would ultimately pass away on June 29, 1716 at La Parade. She's buried there. That's the cemetery. And she was 65 years old. So I was unable to find an association for her first husband, but certainly anyone, if you find it for, Jean's family, that would be good. That would be awesome, actually. And then her second husband, obviously, Levesque is a very, very prominent name, and so l'Association Levesque, those of you who have that descendancy from her second husband, definitely this would be, and I've posted the links for you to have a look at as well. Absolutely have a look at that and see where you kind of fit in. But this is your association, if you will. For further research, I always like to point out La Société des Filles du Roi, Quebec Genealogical E-Society, Nos Origines, Généalogie Québec, Migration, and Facebook. A Facebook group for Les Filles du Roi descendants, which I find remarkable. And I've posted the links for you for further exploration. Remember, you can always email me if you have a question or you're trying to get through some sort of research issue. I'd love to help in any way I can. All right, just make sure you don't be shy. And so we end episode 146. Marie is an example of someone who, carried on, who made sure that she was able to not only survive in the New World, but when her husband suddenly passed away, she was able to remarry. She built a land. She built something. Those 12 arpents probably came from her, or a big part of it came from her. That's what I assume. And in the end, she, even though, it was funny when I looked at the descendants from 1729, there were only 30 descendants as of 1729. But it's not where you start, it's where you finish. So my viewer is among those, and so is my husband, my friend's husband. So ultimately, the line has survived and thrived. And so, like I said, sometimes I'll do a Fille du Roi, and there'll be 200 descendants, and then I won't find that many. But this one, I suspect, is a strong and vibrant one. And also, for Sainte Anne de la Parade, this is among the pioneers of that. So you can be proud of the fact that you have, you are the pioneers of Sainte Anne de la Parade. And if any of you ever want to go there, you can lay claim to, this is where your ancestors were. So absolutely take pride in that. And for that, we thank Marie, we thank Jean and Pierre for their contributions and for, for blessing us with their presence and doing their best, no matter what the hardships may have been. So with that, I thank you. I bid you au revoir until I see you again on episode 147.